My kidney donation to my son was seconds away when my grandson revealed a secret. I'm Auntie Jasmine, a 52-year-old Black woman who spent 6 months preparing to give my kidney to my son Marcus, going through tests, changing my diet, preparing my will only to have my 8-year-old grandson whisper in my ear seconds before surgery. Daddy said after you give him your kidney, he's selling Grandma's house, and you can't stop him because you'll be too weak. 3 months later, Marcus sat in a courtroom while a judge ruled on the fraud charges I'd brought against him and his wife, stripped him of his power of attorney, and ordered him to repay the $200,000 he'd already stolen from me. The audacity, the calculated betrayal, my own son. I remember sitting in that pre-op room, already in my hospital gown, IV in my arm, Marcus squeezing my hand, and telling me how grateful he was, how much he loved me, while little Isaiah played with his tablet in the corner. I'd been minutes away from being wheeled into that operating room, minutes away from giving up a part of myself to save my child's life, and all the while, he'd been planning to rob me blind. The morning after I canceled the surgery, after security had escorted a screaming Marcus out of the hospital while he shouted about me murdering him, I sat at my kitchen table with my hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had long since gone cold. The grandfather clock my mother left me ticked steadily in the hallway. Morning light filtered through the lace curtains I'd hung 30 years ago when I first bought this house. This house that Marcus had been planning to steal. My hands trembled every time I replayed Isaiah's words. That baby had saved me. 8 years old, and he'd overheard his parents plotting, understood enough to know it was wrong, and found the courage to tell me even though it meant betraying his own father. Had I been such a fool? 43 years I'd been Marcus's mother. I'd raised him alone after his father died, worked double shifts as a nurse to put him through college, helped him start his landscaping business, co-signed on his first house. And this was how he repaid me. My throat tightened. The room spun slightly and I gripped the edge of the table. I thought about the tests, the months of preparation, the dietary restrictions. The way Marcus had brought me flowers every week, helped me around the house, told me I was the best mother a man could ask for. The way his wife Tanya had hugged me and cried, saying she was praying for both of us. All lies, all manipulation, all part of their plan. Let me take you back to better times, because you need to understand what they destroyed. I remember the day Marcus was born, May 15, 1983, holding that 7-pound baby boy in my arms at Howard University Hospital while rain drummed against the windows. His father, James, had looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "Jasmine, we made something perfect." 6 months later, James was gone, killed by a drunk driver on his way home from his construction job. Marcus never knew his father, but I made sure he knew he was loved. I remembered Marcus at 5 years old, helping me bake sweet potato pie for Thanksgiving, his little hands covered in flour. At 10, sitting at this same kitchen table doing his homework while I quizzes him on multiplication tables. At 16, when he got accepted to Howard James's alma mater, and we danced around this living room crying and laughing. I remembered his wedding to Tanya 12 years ago, right here in my backyard under the big oak tree. I'd made her wedding dress by hand, spent 3 months sewing tiny pearls into the bodice. She'd called me Mama Jasmine and promised to take care of my boy. I remembered when Isaiah was born, how Marcus had placed that tiny baby in my arms and said, "Mama, you taught me everything about love. Now I get to pass it on." I'd helped them through everything. When Marcus's business struggled, I'd loaned him $30,000, which he never paid back, but I never asked. When Tanya's mother died, I'd helped plan the funeral and held her while she cried. When they needed a down payment for a bigger house, I'd given them another $25,000. I'd loved them, sacrificed for them, trusted them completely. Last Christmas, just 9 months ago, we'd all been here in this house. Marcus had made his famous ribs on the grill. Tanya had brought her macaroni and cheese. Isaiah had sat on my lap while we watched The Wiz together, and he'd fallen asleep with his head on my shoulder. Marcus had kissed my forehead and said, "Mama, I don't know what we'd do without you." Now I knew. They'd been planning this even then. How did we get here? How did my son become someone who would let me cut myself open for him while planning to rob me? When did love turn into greed? The signs had been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. It started 6 months ago when Marcus called to tell me he needed a kidney transplant. His diabetes had damaged them both years of not managing it properly, not taking his insulin regularly, not following doctor's orders despite my nagging. I'd cried on the phone, then immediately said, "Test me. I'll give you one of mine." Marcus had protested weakly, I realized now. "Mama, you don't have to do that. I can wait for the donor list." "You're my son," I'd said. "We're not waiting for anything." I'd gone through the testing at Georgetown University Hospital. Blood work, imaging, psychological evaluation, meetings with the transplant team. Everything came back perfect. I was a match, healthy enough for surgery despite being 52. The doctors said I could donate. That's when things started feeling off. Marcus began visiting more often, which I'd attributed to his illness and our upcoming surgery. But looking back, the visits had a purpose. He always steered conversations toward my house, my finances, my plans for the future. "Mama, you ever think about downsizing? This house is a lot for one person. Have you updated your will recently? You should make sure everything's in order just in case. You know, if anything happened during the surgery, we'd need to know where all your important documents are." I'd thought he was worried about me. Now I knew he was cataloging his future assets. Then, about 3 months before the scheduled surgery, Tanya had brought up power of attorney over Sunday dinner. "Auntie Jasmine," she'd said, smiling sweetly across my dining room table while passing the collard greens, "have you thought about giving Marcus power of attorney? Just temporarily, while you're recovering from surgery. Someone needs to be able to handle your bills and make medical decisions if you're too weak." The way she said, "Auntie Jasmine," now made my skin crawl. Back then, I'd thought it was thoughtful. "That makes sense," I'd agreed. "Let me talk to my lawyer." "Actually," Marcus had jumped in, "Tanya's cousin is a lawyer. He could draw up the papers for free, save you some money." Red flag. I'd missed the red flag, but something in my gut had hesitated. Instead of using Tanya's cousin, I'd called my own attorney, Gerald Morrison, who'd handled my affairs for 20 years. Gerald had prepared a limited power of attorney, very specific, very temporary, only for the 2 months following surgery and only for specific purposes. Marcus had seemed annoyed when I'd made him sign it in Gerald's office instead of handling it, casually, at home. Another red flag I'd missed. The real evidence came one afternoon in late August, about a month before our scheduled surgery. I'd driven to Marcus's house to drop off some groceries. He'd claimed he was too weak to shop, though I'd noticed he still managed to play basketball with his friends on Saturdays. I'd let myself in with my key, calling out, but nobody answered. Marcus's truck was in the driveway, so I figured he was in the backyard. I'd started putting groceries away when I heard voices coming from his home office down the hall. Marcus's voice. "House is worth at least $850,000. The neighborhood's gentrified like crazy. Once we sell it," Tanya's voice. "But what if she survives the surgery just fine? What if she doesn't need us to handle her affairs?" I'd frozen in the kitchen, a box of cereal in my hands. Marcus laughed. "Baby, she's 52 years old giving up a kidney. The recovery is brutal at that age. The doctors said she'll be weak for months, maybe have complications. And even if she bounces back, we have power of attorney." She signed it. "It's limited," Tanya said. "Your mama's lawyer made it very specific. Doesn't matter. Once I have control, I'll transfer what I need before she realizes. By the time she's strong enough to fight it, the house will be sold, the money will be moved offshore through my buddy Derek's accounts, and she'll be too old and tired to do anything about it." My blood ran cold. "What about Isaiah?" Tanya asked. "He's been asking questions. He heard us talking last week." "He's 8. Who's gonna believe an 8-year-old? Besides, Mama will still have enough to live on. We're not leaving her homeless. She can rent somewhere smaller." The cereal box slipped from my hands and hit the floor. The voices stopped abruptly. Footsteps rushed toward the kitchen. Marcus appeared in the doorway, shirtless, looking shocked. Tanya was right behind him. "Mama!" Marcus's face shifted quickly to a smile. "I didn't hear you come in." I stared at him, my son, my baby boy. Looking me dead in the face after I'd just heard him plot to steal everything I'd worked for. "The groceries," I managed to say, though my voice sounded strange even to my own ears. "I brought groceries." "You okay, Mama? You look pale. Come sit down." He moved toward me. I stepped back. "I'm fine. I just remembered I have an appointment. I'll call you later." I'd grabbed my purse and fled to my car, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. As I'd pulled away, I saw them standing in the doorway, watching me. Marcus had his arm around Tanya's waist. They didn't look worried. They looked calculating, probably wondering how much I'd heard. I'd driven straight to Rock Creek Park and sat in the parking lot for 2 hours, crying so hard I thought I might be sick. My son wanted to rob me. Wanted to use my love, my sacrifice, my literal organ as an opportunity to steal my home, my savings, everything my mother left me, everything I'd built. There must be an explanation, I told myself. Maybe I misunderstood. But I knew what I'd heard. I hadn't misunderstood anything. That night, I'd gone through my files. The power of attorney Gerald had prepared was specific, but Marcus was right. Once I was weak and recovering, once he had even limited access to my accounts and affairs, he could do damage before I was strong enough to stop him. The next morning, I'd found a receipt in my jacket pocket from when I'd borrowed Marcus's truck last month to haul some furniture. The receipt was from a real estate attorney's office. Date, July 15th. Amount, $2,500. Service description, property transfer consultation and documentation. July. They'd been planning this since July, 3 months before our scheduled surgery. I'd thought about confronting them, but something stopped me. Maybe it was my nursing background. We're trained to gather all the facts before diagnosis. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was the memory of Marcus's cold voice saying, "By the time she's strong enough to fight it, the money will be moved offshore." They thought I was weak. They thought I was too trusting, too maternal, too old to fight back. They were wrong. I called Mrs. Patricia Henderson on a Tuesday morning. Patricia and I had been friends since our daughters were in Girl Scouts together 30 years ago. She was a retired detective from the D.C. Metro Police, and she'd helped me once before when a contractor tried to scam me on a home repair. "Patricia, I need your help," I said when she answered. "It's about Marcus." We met at Busboys and Poets on 14th Street that afternoon. I slid into the booth across from her, and she took one look at my face and said, "Jasmine, honey, what happened?" I told her everything. The kidney donation, the power of attorney, the conversation I'd overheard, the receipt. Patricia listened, her expression darkening. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Jasmine, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to help you nail his ass to the wall." "He's my son," I whispered. "And you're his mother, and he's planning to rob you while you're cut open on an operating table. That's not a son, that's a predator." Patricia pulled out a notebook. "First thing, we need to know exactly what they're planning. I know a private investigator, former FBI. His name's Thomas Reed. He's expensive, but he's worth it. I don't care what it costs." 2 days later, I met Thomas Reed at his office in Alexandria. He was a black man in his 60s, silver-haired, with kind eyes that had seen too much. "Mrs. Washington," he said, shaking my hand. "Patricia told me about your situation. I want you to know I lost my mother to a similar scheme. Her caretaker stole everything. I didn't figure it out until it was too late." His jaw tightened. "I'll find the truth for you." I handed him an envelope with everything. I had copies of the power of attorney, the receipt, dates of Marcus's visits, the names of everyone involved. "I need to know what they're planning," I said. "All of it, every detail." "I'll start today," Thomas promised. "But Mrs. Washington, you should prepare yourself. In my experience, it's usually worse than you think." He was right. Over the next month, Thomas uncovered a conspiracy that made my blood boil. He followed Marcus and Tanya, photographed their meetings, recorded conversations. He dug into their finances and found debt I'd known nothing about: $180,000 in credit card debt, 2 cars on the verge of repossession, a second mortgage on their house. They were drowning, and they'd decided I was their life raft. Thomas discovered that Derek Marcus's buddy, who was supposedly helping with offshore accounts, was actually Derek Simmons, a financial advisor who'd been disbarred for helping clients hide assets in divorce proceedings. Thomas got photos of Marcus and Derek meeting at a coffee shop in Georgetown, documents spread between them. But it got worse. Thomas found emails between Tanya and her sister discussing the plan. In one, dated August 3rd, Tanya wrote, "Marcus says his mom is too trusting to see it coming. She'll sign anything we put in front of her while she's on pain medication after surgery. The house will be transferred within a week, and by the time she realizes, we'll have the money in the Cayman account Derek set up. She can sue if she wants, but international banking laws will tie it up for years. She'll be dead before she gets it back." I'll never forget reading that email in Thomas's office. She'll be dead before she gets it back. My hands were trembling so badly that Thomas had to take the paper from me. There's more, he said gently. I found a life insurance policy. What life insurance policy? On you, $500,000. Marcus took it out 6 months ago, right when you agreed to be tested as a donor. He's listed as the sole beneficiary. The room started spinning. Are you saying? I'm saying your son took out a life insurance policy on you right before you agreed to major surgery. A surgery with risk of complications. In a 52-year-old woman. Thomas's expression was grave. I'm also saying that in my investigation, I found searches on Marcus's home computer for kidney donation mortality rate and complications after organ donation in older donors. I thought I might be sick. Mrs. Washington, I don't think your son expected you to survive this surgery. The truth hit me like a physical blow. Marcus hadn't just been planning to rob me. He'd been planning to kill me, or at least hoping the surgery would do it for him. The life insurance, the hasty power of attorney, the offshore accounts ready to go. If I died on that table or died from complications after, he'd get everything. The house, my savings, the life insurance payout. If by some chance I survived, he'd still steal what he could before I was strong enough to stop him. My son had weaponized my love, had turned my sacrifice into a murder plot. There's one more thing, Thomas said. He pulled out another file. I did some digging into Tanya's background. Mrs. Washington, this isn't the first time she's done this. What do you mean? Before she married Marcus, Tanya was married to a man named Robert Chen. Robert's elderly mother had a stroke and needed care. Tanya convinced Robert to move his mother into their home, got power of attorney, and systematically drained the woman's accounts over 18 months. By the time Robert's sister discovered it, $300,000 was gone. They never recovered it. Tanya had hidden it well. The family chose not to press charges to avoid scandal, and Robert divorced her quietly. Marcus knows about this. I don't think so. Tanya changed her name slightly, goes by her middle name now. Your son has no idea he married a professional con artist. Thomas closed the file. Mrs. Washington, Tanya saw you as a mark from day one. She's been playing the long game, waiting for an opportunity exactly like this. I sat in stunned silence. Everything I'd believed about my family was a lie. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with all of Thomas's evidence spread before me. Photos, emails, bank statements, the insurance policy, records of meetings with Derek Simmons. They weren't just cheating me. They were planning to take everything and leave me either dead or destitute. I thought about little Isaiah, 8 years old, who'd somehow understood what his parents were doing was wrong. Who'd found the courage to tell me even though it meant betraying his own father. I picked up my phone and called Patricia. I have everything, I said. Now I need to figure out how to use it. Oh, honey, Patricia said. I've been thinking about that, and I have an idea. I could have confronted Marcus and Tanya privately. Could have canceled the surgery quietly, cut them out of my life, moved on. But they'd planned to destroy me, had been willing to let me die to get what they wanted, had stolen from others before, would do it again to someone else if I didn't stop them. They forced my hand. And if they wanted war, they would have war. Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize, cold, calculating, determined. Patricia, Thomas, and I met at my house every evening after I made sure Marcus and Tanya weren't coming by. We planned everything meticulously. First, I went to my attorney, Gerald Morrison. Gerald, I need to revoke the power of attorney today. Gerald looked confused. Jasmine, the surgery is in 2 weeks. Who will handle? I'm canceling the surgery. His eyebrows shot up. Are you sure? Your son is planning to rob me the moment I'm too weak to stop him. I slid Thomas's report across his desk. Read it. Gerald read in silence for 10 minutes. His face grew harder with each page. When he finished, he looked at me with something like horror. Jasmine, this is criminal fraud, conspiracy. This is my son, I finished. And I want him prosecuted, but first I want to catch him in the act. Gerald leaned back in his chair. What do you have in mind? I told him. When I finished, a slow smile crossed his face. Jasmine Washington, remind me never to cross you. Next, Patricia helped me secure my assets. We moved money from the accounts Marcus knew about into new accounts at a different bank. We put my house in a trust. Gerald set it up so that even if someone forged my signature, the trust made the property impossible to transfer without multiple witnesses and a 3-week waiting period. Your house is fortress now, Gerald said. Nobody's stealing it. We arranged for forensic accountants to be ready to trace any transactions Marcus might attempt. We contacted the FBI about Derek Simmons and his offshore schemes. They were very interested in that information. Then came the hard part, the trap itself. I called Marcus on a Thursday evening, forced my voice to sound weak and worried. Honey, I need to talk to you. Can you come over tomorrow? Everything okay, Mama? I've been having second thoughts about the surgery. I'm scared. I heard him cover the phone and murmur something to Tanya. Then, Mama, don't worry. I'll be there first thing tomorrow morning. We'll talk through everything. Thank you, baby. I love you. Love you too, Mama. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with a tape recorder hidden in the fruit bowl Thomas had installed it the night before, completely invisible. I'd also given Thomas a key to my house. He was in my home office upstairs with recording equipment. Marcus arrived at 9 a.m. with Tanya and Isaiah. I'd hoped Isaiah would be at school, but apparently they'd kept him home. Maybe they thought having him there would make me more compliant. Mama, Marcus hugged me, and I forced myself not to flinch. You said you're having second thoughts. We sat around my kitchen table. Isaiah went to the living room to watch TV. I'd put on cartoons for him. I'm scared, I said, trying to sound fragile. What if something goes wrong? What if I die? Mama, you're not gonna die, Marcus said soothingly. You're healthy, the doctors said, but I'm 52, complications happen. I dabbed at my eyes with a tissue. I've been thinking maybe I should make sure everything is in order just in case. Tanya and Marcus exchanged a glance. I saw the predatory gleam in their eyes. That's smart, Auntie Jasmine, Tanya said, reaching across to pat my hand. I wanted to snatch it away. Very responsible. The power of attorney you have, I continued. It's pretty limited. Gerald made it so specific. Maybe we should expand it, make it easier for you to handle things if I'm too weak after surgery. I watched Marcus trying not to look too eager. Only if you're comfortable with that, Mama. I am, I lied. Actually, I had Gerald draw up new papers, more comprehensive. They're in my office upstairs. Can you get them, Marcus? Top drawer of my desk. Marcus practically jumped up. Of course, Mama. He headed upstairs right where Thomas was waiting with recording equipment and cameras. While he was gone, I turned to Tanya. Thank you for taking care of my boy, I said. I know it's not easy with his health issues. Oh, Auntie Jasmine, we're family. We take care of each other. Her smile was so genuine, so warm, so fake. I've been thinking about something else too, I said. The house. It's a lot for one person. Maybe after the surgery, after I recover, I should sell it. Downsize? Tanya's eyes lit up. That might be a good idea. Take some of the burden off you. I'd want you and Marcus to handle it, of course. You know real estate. We'd be happy to help. Marcus returned with papers. Gerald had planted fake documents with forged signatures and impossible legal language designed to be obviously fraudulent. Here they are, Mama. I pretended to review them, though I'd written notes on them the night before, scripted questions designed to make Marcus incriminate himself on tape. So if I sign these, you'll be able to access my bank accounts. Only to pay your bills while you're recovering, Marcus said smoothly. Make sure everything's taken care of. And you could sell the house if needed. Only if you wanted us to, Mama, only if you asked. Lie, complete lie. What about the life insurance? I saw something about that. Marcus's face flickered just for a second. That's just to make sure you're covered in case anything happens. I didn't know I had life insurance. I set it up for you, paid the premiums myself just to protect you. Another lie. He'd set it up to profit from my death. I pushed the papers away. I don't know, let me think about it. Marcus's jaw tightened. Mama, the surgery is in 12 days. We need to get everything in order. I know, I'm just scared. I stood up, acting shaky. Let me make some tea, we can talk more. While I was in the kitchen, filling the kettle, I heard them whispering in the dining room. I strained to listen. Marcus. Too hesitant, we need her to sign today. Tanya, give her time, she's scared. We push too hard, she'll back out of the surgery entirely. Marcus, if she backs out, we're screwed. We need that kidney donation to go through. Once she's weak. SHH, she'll hear you. I came back with tea, smiling. Sorry, what were you saying? Just talking about how proud we are of you, Mama, Marcus said. You're so brave. I forced myself to smile at him, my son, who wished me dead. We talked for another hour. I didn't sign anything. Finally, Marcus and Tanya left, frustrated but still believing they had time to manipulate me. After they drove away, Thomas came downstairs with the recording equipment. Got every word, he said grimly. That's conspiracy to commit fraud right there. And I got him on camera going through your desk. He was photographing other documents you had up there. Bank statements, your will. He's planning something for sure. Good, I said. My voice was cold. Now for phase 2. Phase 2 was the hospital. I called Georgetown University Hospital the next day and requested a meeting with Dr. Sarah Chen, the transplant surgeon, and the hospital's ethics board. They gathered in a conference room, Dr. Chen, 2 ethics board members, a hospital attorney, and me. I brought Gerald, Patricia, and Thomas. I need to report something, I said. My son is trying to defraud me using this surgery as cover. I presented everything. The evidence, the recordings, the insurance policy, the offshore accounts. The hospital attorney's face went pale. Mrs. Washington, are you saying your son is using his medical condition to rob me? Yes. And possibly hoping I'll die in the process so he can collect life insurance. Dr. Chen looked devastated. I'm so sorry. This is unconscionable. We need to cancel the surgery immediately. No, I said. Not yet. I want to proceed as if everything is normal. I want my son to believe the surgery is still happening. I don't understand, Dr. Chen said. I'm going to confront him, publicly, at what he believes is a pre-surgery family gathering. And I need the surgery canceled at the hospital end, but I need him not to know until I'm ready. The ethics board members looked at each other. Mrs. Washington, one of them said carefully, we appreciate you reporting this, but we can't be part of a sting operation, Patricia finished. She pulled out her retired detective badge. I'm coordinating with DC Metro Fraud Division. We want to catch him attempting the fraud. Mrs. Washington is helping us build a case. That wasn't entirely true, but it sounded official enough. The hospital attorney made some calls. Eventually, they agreed. The surgery would be officially canceled in their system, but they wouldn't notify Marcus. As far as he knew, we were proceeding as planned. One more thing, I said to Dr. Chen. I need you at the gathering. I need you to be the one who tells Marcus the surgery isn't happening. Dr. Chen's expression hardened. Mrs. Washington, I'll be there. And I'll make sure he understands exactly why. I planned the confrontation for the Saturday before our scheduled Tuesday surgery. I told Marcus I wanted to have a family celebration, one last gathering before the operation, to celebrate our bond, to acknowledge what we were about to go through together. Mama, that's beautiful, Marcus had said on the phone. We'll be there, should we bring anything? Just yourselves, I'm handling everything. I'd smiled at breakfast that morning, preparing food like nothing was wrong. I'd made Marcus's favorite fried chicken, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, cornbread, sweet potato pie. The spread I'd made for every birthday, every holiday, every celebration of his life. One last meal. I'd invited specific people. Patricia and her husband, Thomas and his wife, Gerald and his partner, Dr. Chen, and a detective from the DC Metro Fraud Division named Detective Williams who'd become involved once Patricia made some calls. I'd also invited my cousin Beverly and her husband, my neighbor Mr. Peterson who'd known Marcus since he was a boy, and 3 members of my church including Pastor Roberts. Witnesses. Plenty of witnesses. Marcus, Tanya, and Isaiah arrived at 2 p.m. Marcus carried flowers, ironic, given he'd brought me flowers every week while plotting to rob me. Mama, the house smells amazing, he said, kissing my cheek. Only the best for my boy, I said. The other guests arrived in clusters. Marcus looked confused when Patricia came in. Mrs. Henderson, I didn't know she was coming. Oh, Patricia and I have gotten close lately, I said lightly. She's been such a help. Marcus's expression flickered when Thomas arrived with his wife. Who's that? Thomas Reed. He's a friend of Patricia's, very interesting man. By 3 p.m., my living room and dining room were full. Marcus and Tanya were looking uncomfortable, clearly not expecting this many people. Mama, I thought this was just family, Marcus said quietly. It is family, I replied. And friends who are like family, people who care about me. I watched his jaw tighten. We ate. I'd set up a long table in my dining room with all the food. People filled their plates, talking and laughing. Isaiah sat with the other kids. I'd made sure there were a few children from the church so he wouldn't be alone. After dinner, I stood up and clinked my glass. Everyone, thank you for coming. As you know, Marcus and I are scheduled for surgery on Tuesday. I wanted to gather everyone who matters to me to celebrate family, to acknowledge the gift of love and sacrifice. People nodded, smiled. Marcus looked relieved. He thought this was really just a celebration. Before we have dessert, I want to share some things, some discoveries I've made recently. Marcus's smile faltered. You see, a mother knows her child. I've known Marcus for 43 years. I know when he's happy, when he's sad, when he's lying. Mama, Marcus stood up. Sit down, I said, my voice hard. You're going to want to be sitting for this. The room had gone silent. Everyone was staring. About a month ago, I went to Marcus's house to bring groceries. I overheard a conversation between my son and his wife. A conversation about how they plan to steal my house, my savings, everything I own. Tanya's face went white. Marcus started to speak, but I held up my hand. Let me finish. At first, I thought I must have misunderstood. This is my son, the boy I raised. He wouldn't do that to me. But then I found this. I pulled out the receipt from the real estate attorney, held it up for everyone to see. Marcus and Tanya met with a property transfer attorney in July. They paid $2,500 for consultation on how to steal my house. That's not we were just getting advice, Marcus stammered. Then I found the emails. I pulled them out, printed and highlighted. Emails between Tanya and her sister discussing how I'm too trusting to see it coming. How you'd transfer my house within a week of surgery. How you'd hide the money offshore. Here, let me read my favorite part. She'll be dead before she gets it back. Gasps around the room. Pastor Roberts looked horrified. My cousin Beverly had her hand over her mouth. That's out of context, Tanya shouted. You're twisting, am I? I pulled out more papers. Let's talk about Derek Simmons, the disbarred financial advisor Marcus hired to set up offshore accounts. Or the life insurance policy Marcus took out on me 6 months ago, $500,000 with him as the sole beneficiary. The same time I agreed to donate my kidney. Dr. Chen stood up from where she'd been sitting quietly. Mrs. Washington, may I? I nodded. Dr. Chen looked at Marcus with disgust. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, the transplant surgeon at Georgetown. I've been made aware of your plan, Mr. Washington. The hospital has canceled Tuesday's surgery. We will not be part of your scheme to defraud your mother. Marcus's face was red, furious. You can't cancel it. I need that kidney. Mama, you can't let them do this. I can, and I did, I said. Do you know why I agreed to give you my kidney? Because I loved you, because you're my son, I would have died for you. My voice broke, and I hated that it did. I hated that he could still hurt me. But you wanted me to die. You researched mortality rates. You took out life insurance. You planned to steal everything I have while I was too weak to stop you, or you planned to profit from my death. Mama, please. Marcus moved toward me, but Detective Williams stepped forward. Mr. Washington, I'm Detective Williams with D.C. Metro Fraud Division. Stay where you are. Patricia stood too. Marcus, Tanya, we have recordings of your conversations. We have your emails. We have documentation of your meetings with Derek Simmons, who is currently under FBI investigation for money laundering. I want to play something for everyone, I said. I pulled out the recording from our kitchen conversation, pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room. If she backs out, we're screwed. We need that kidney donation to go through. Once she's weak, I stopped the recording. Once I'm weak, you plan to rob me blind. The room erupted. Pastor Roberts stood up, pointing at Marcus. Why have you lost your mind? This is your mother. My cousin Beverly was crying. Jasmine, I'm so sorry. I can't believe. Marcus was shaking his head frantically. You don't understand. We're drowning. We owe $180,000. We're gonna lose the house. I didn't know what else to do. So you decided to steal from the woman who raised you. Patricia's voice was cold. The woman who gave you everything, who was about to literally give you a piece of her body. Tanya suddenly stood up. This is harassment. You people ambushed us. Marcus needs that kidney. You're all cruel, cruel. Thomas stood now. Let's talk about cruelty, Mrs. Washington, or should I call you by your previous name, Tanya Chen, when you stole $300,000 from your first husband's mother, before you changed your name and found another Mark. Marcus's head whipped toward Tanya. What? I didn't. That was different. Tanya was backing toward the door. Different how? Thomas pulled out his report. You did the exact same thing. Got power of attorney over an elderly woman, drained her accounts, hid the money. You're a professional con artist who targeted Jasmine Washington from the moment you met her son. Marcus looked between me and Tanya, his face a mask of confusion and horror. Mama, I didn't know. I laughed bitterly. You didn't know your wife was a con artist, maybe not, but you knew what you were doing. You researched how to steal from me. You hoped I'd die. You took out life insurance betting on my death. Gerald stood up with a briefcase. Mrs. Washington asked me to prepare something for today. He pulled out papers. Marcus, Tanya, I'm serving you notice. Mrs. Washington is suing you for attempted fraud, conspiracy, and elder abuse. We're seeking full restitution of all money you've taken from her over the years, $55,000 in loans that were never repaid. We're also filing criminal complaints. Detective Williams pulled out handcuffs. Additionally, Mr. Washington, Ms. Chen, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted theft. You can't arrest us, Marcus shouted. She's lying. She's making this all up because she's scared and she's trying to get out of the surgery. Mama, a small voice from the doorway. Isaiah stood there, tears streaming down his face. He ran to me and buried his face in my side. I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm sorry they were gonna hurt you. I tried to tell you before, but I was scared. I held him close, this baby, this 8-year-old child who'd saved me. You did good, Isaiah. You were so brave. Marcus stared at his son. Isaiah, you told her. Isaiah turned to face his father, still holding on to me. You said you were gonna take Grandma's house. You said bad things. I heard you. Grandma's nice and you were gonna hurt her. The room was silent except for Isaiah's crying. Marcus's face crumbled. He dropped to his knees. Mama, please, I'm sorry. I was desperate. I was wrong. Please don't do this. I'm your son. I looked down at him, my baby boy, the child I'd rocked to sleep, nursed through fevers, celebrated every milestone with, the man who'd been willing to let me die to pay his debts. You stopped being my son when you decided I was worth more dead than alive, I said quietly. Detective Williams put the handcuffs on Marcus while another officer who'd been waiting outside cuffed Tanya. Pastor Roberts was praying. My cousin Beverly was holding me up because my legs suddenly felt weak. As they led Marcus out, he turned back one more time. Mama, don't, I said. Just don't. They took him away. Tanya went screaming about lawyers and false charges. Through my front door, out to the police cars waiting on my quiet street where neighbors had come out to watch. The boy I'd raised was gone. In his place was a stranger who'd tried to destroy me. The legal consequences came swiftly. Marcus and Tanya were charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted theft, and elder abuse. Derek Simmons was arrested by the FBI for his offshore banking schemes. Marcus and Tanya became cooperating witnesses in that case, hoping for reduced sentences. The forensic accountants traced the $55,000 I'd loaned Marcus over the years. The judge ordered full restitution plus interest, $75,000 total. Gerald filed for an emergency hearing to strip Marcus of any power of attorney, present or future. The judge granted it immediately and added a restraining order. Marcus wasn't allowed within 500 feet of me or my property. The life insurance policy was investigated. The insurance company flagged it as potential insurance fraud, taking out a policy on someone right before they underwent major surgery you were benefiting from. Marcus had to surrender the policy and was banned from ever taking another policy on my life. The house Marcus and Tanya were living in, the one I'd helped them buy, went into foreclosure. They'd been lying about making payments. They lost it. Their court date came 3 months after that terrible Saturday. I sat in the courtroom wearing my best purple suit. Patricia sat beside me, holding my hand. Isaiah sat on my other side. Social services had done an investigation, and I'd been awarded emergency custody while the case was sorted out. Marcus and Tanya stood before the judge. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue that he'd been desperate, that his illness had affected his judgment, that he deserved mercy because he was my son. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Angela Rodriguez, stood up with Thomas's entire report. Your Honor, Marcus Washington and Tanya Chen orchestrated a detailed plan to defraud Mr. Washington's mother of her home and savings while she was vulnerable after organ donation surgery. They researched mortality rates, hoping she would die. They set up offshore accounts to hide stolen money. This was not desperation. This was calculated predation of an elderly family member. The judge, a black woman in her 60s named Judge Constance Williams, looked at Marcus with something like disgust. Mr. Washington, I've reviewed the evidence. The recordings, the emails, the testimony. I've seen many cases in this courtroom, but few have appalled me like this one. She shuffled papers. Your mother was prepared to give you a vital organ, to undergo surgery that carried risks to her life and health, and you repaid that love by planning to rob her blind or profit from her death. Your Honor, Marcus started. I'm not finished. Judge Williams's voice was sharp. You took out life insurance on your mother while she prepared to save your life. You researched how to steal her property. You conspired with a disbarred financial advisor to hide assets offshore. This court finds you guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted theft, and elder abuse. Marcus's shoulders sagged. I'm sentencing you to 3 years in prison, suspended to 18 months with 3 years probation. You will repay your mother $75,000 in full restitution. You are prohibited from any contact with your mother without her explicit written permission. You will undergo mandatory counseling for gambling addiction and financial management. She turned to Tanya. Ms. Chen, your history makes this worse. You defrauded your previous mother-in-law and clearly targeted Mrs. Washington as your next victim. I'm sentencing you to 2 years in prison with 5 years probation, full restitution, and a permanent restraining order from Mrs. Washington. The gavel came down. It was over. Marcus turned to look at me as they led him away. I saw him mouth, I'm sorry. I looked away. Isaiah squeezed my hand. Can we go home, Grandma? Yes, baby, I said. Let's go home. That was 9 months ago. Today, I'm sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Marcus and I used to bake pies, where I used to help him with homework, where I overheard him plotting to rob me. The morning light comes through those same lace curtains. My mother's clock ticks in the hallway. My coffee is hot, but everything is different. Isaiah lives with me now. His mother is in prison. His father serves weekend jail time and works during the week to pay restitution. Social services determined I was the best placement for Isaiah while his parents serve their sentences. We've settled into a routine. I make him breakfast before school. I help with his homework at this kitchen table. On Saturdays, we go to the park or the African American History Museum or the bookstore. He's in therapy, processing what his parents did, but he's resilient. Kids are. Last week he told me, Grandma, I'm glad I told you. You're safe now. I'm glad too, baby. You saved me. The house is mine, secured in a trust that makes it nearly impossible to steal. I've updated my will everything goes to Isaiah when he's 25, with a trustee managing it until then. Gerald is the trustee. Isaiah will be taken care of, but protected from anyone who might try to manipulate him. I've received $30,000 in restitution so far from Marcus. He's paying $500 a month while he works as a landscaper for someone else now. His own business collapsed when he was arrested. At this rate, he'll be paying me for years. Good. Tanya is serving her 2-year sentence. I've heard through the grapevine that she's filed for divorce from Marcus. Tipuk. Marcus writes me letters from jail. I don't read them. Patricia suggested I might want to someday, but I'm not ready. Maybe I never will be. I still think about him sometimes. I remember the little boy who held my hand on his first day of kindergarten. The teenager who made me laugh with his terrible jokes. The young man who cried when his daughter was born. No, that's wrong. Isaiah is his son, not daughter. See, even in my memories, Marcus is becoming a stranger. Pastor Roberts tells me I should consider forgiveness. Jasmine, he's still your son. God calls us to forgive. God also calls us to have wisdom, I reply. And my wisdom tells me that Marcus made his choices. He has to live with the consequences. Some people in my family think I was too harsh. My cousin's husband said at Thanksgiving, Jasmine, he's in jail. You got your money back. Maybe it's time to let him come home. I looked at him across my dining room table, the same table where I'd confronted Marcus, and said, he tried to steal my home while I was cut open on a table giving him my kidney. He hoped I would die so he could collect insurance money. Some things don't deserve forgiveness. The table had gotten quiet, but most people understand. Patricia tells me stories of other elderly people, Black women especially, who have been victimized by their own children. It's more common than people think. You protected yourself, Patricia said last week over coffee. And you protected Isaiah. You did what you had to do. Thomas checks on me monthly. Just making sure you're safe, Mrs. Washington. No new schemes, no attempts at contact. All quiet, I assure him. Though I have a security system now, cameras, new locks. I'm not taking chances. I found a new doctor to monitor my kidneys, both of them, still safe inside me where they belong. She says I'm healthy, should live another 30 years or more. 30 years. Time enough to raise Isaiah. Time enough to see him graduate high school, college. Time enough to meet his children someday. Time I almost didn't have because my son saw me as an opportunity instead of a person. Looking back now, I realize the signs were always there. The way Marcus would get irritated when I said no to loans. The way Tanya always steered conversations toward my assets. The way they'd joke about when we inherit the house. But I hadn't wanted to see it, because seeing it meant accepting that my son didn't love me the way I loved him, that my maternal devotion was a weapon he was willing to use against me. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was accepting that the Marcus I thought I knew, the loving son, the grateful recipient of my sacrifice, never existed. Or if he did, he died somewhere along the way, replaced by someone ruled by greed and desperation. Some say I was too harsh, that I should have handled it privately. That sending my son to jail was extreme, but they didn't hear him researching mortality rates. They didn't see the life insurance policy. They didn't read the emails about me being dead before she gets it back. He wasn't just planning fraud. He was planning my death, or at least positioning himself to profit from it. You don't come back from that. You don't forgive that. You survive it and you make sure it never happens again. People ask if I regret not giving Marcus my kidney, if I feel guilty that he's still on the transplant list, waiting for a donor while his health deteriorates. I don't. He made his choice. He chose money over love, greed over family. His health problems are not my responsibility anymore. My responsibility is to Isaiah, to myself. To the life I've built over 52 years, a life I almost gave away to someone who saw it as nothing more than a payday. I protect what's mine now. I'm more careful about who I trust. I watch people's actions, not their words. I listen to what they do when they think I'm not paying attention. And I remember that sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones you'd die for. But you don't have to die for them. You don't have to let them destroy you. You can fight back. You can protect yourself. You can demand justice. Even if, especially if they're family. My mother used to say, "Jasmine, blood is thick, but it ain't thicker than wisdom." I didn't understand what she meant when I was young. I thought family loyalty was absolute, that you forgave everything, sacrificed everything, gave everything. Now I understand. Family is important, but family that betrays you isn't family anymore. They're just people who happen to share your DNA. Last week, Isaiah and I were making dinner together. He's learning to cook, and he's surprisingly good at it. He looked up at me while stirring the greens and said, "Grandma, when I grow up, I'm gonna take care of you. For real. Not like what they were gonna do." I kissed the top of his head. "I know you will, baby. I trust you." And I do, because Isaiah proved himself when it mattered. At 8 years old, he chose right over wrong, truth over loyalty to his parents. My safety over his own comfort. He's going to be a good man, nothing like his father. Marcus gets out of jail in 9 months. I don't know what I'll do then. The restraining order will still be in effect unless I lift it, which I have no plans to do. He'll have to rebuild his life without me in it. Part of me, a small, stubborn part that remembers his first steps and his first words, hopes he'll get his life together. Find a donor. Get healthy. Become someone worthy of Isaiah's love. But mostly, I just hope he stays away. I've built a new life, a quieter life, a safer life. I volunteer at the senior center now, teaching other elderly people about financial fraud and how to protect themselves. I share my story a sanitized version and watch recognition dawn on their faces. So many of them have children or grandchildren who have asked for loans, who have suggested helping with finances, who have pushed for power of attorney just in case. I teach them to say no. To protect their assets, to trust their instincts, to remember that real love doesn't come with a price tag. Patricia and I have coffee every Tuesday at Busboys and Poets. Thomas and his wife come over for dinner once a month. Gerald checks in regularly, making sure my trust is secure, my will is updated, everything is protected. I have people who love me, real love, not the conditional, transactional love Marcus offered, not the calculated affection Tanya performed. Real love. The kind that doesn't count costs or calculate benefits. The kind that shows up. The kind that tells hard truths even when it's scary. The kind Isaiah showed me when he whispered that secret in my ear, seconds before I would have given up my kidney to someone planning to destroy me. My grandson saved me. A child showed more integrity than his father ever did. That's what I hold on to now, not the betrayal, not the pain, but the moment an 8-year-old boy chose courage, chose me, chose right. And in saving me, he saved himself too. Because if their plan had worked, if they'd stolen everything, if I'd died or been left destitute, what would have happened to Isaiah? What would he have learned about love, about family, about right and wrong? Now he's learning different lessons. That integrity matters. That standing up for what's right is hard but necessary. That real family protects each other, not prey on each other. He's learning these lessons at my kitchen table, in the house his parents tried to steal, from the grandmother they tried to rob. Sometimes justice is poetic like that. I'm Auntie Jasmine. I'm 52 years old. I'm a Black woman who's seen enough, survived enough, and learned enough to know my worth. I was almost destroyed by greed wearing the mask of family love. But I survived. I fought back. And I won. They thought I was weak. Thought I was too trusting, too maternal, too old to fight. They were wrong. And now they know. You don't cross Auntie Jasmine and get away with it. You don't weaponize love and walk away clean. You don't plot someone's destruction and expect mercy. I gave them justice instead. Cold, hard, legal justice. The kind that comes with handcuffs and court dates and consequences that last. Some people might say I should have been more forgiving, more understanding, more willing to let family be family despite betrayal. Those people didn't almost die on an operating table while their son plotted to steal their legacy. I did what I had to do. I protected myself, my grandson, my future. And I'd do it again. Because at the end of the day, love without respect is just manipulation. Family without integrity is just biology. And sacrifice without reciprocity is just exploitation. I learned those lessons the hard way, but I learned them. And now, every morning, I wake up in my house, secure and protected. I make breakfast for Isaiah. I sit at my kitchen table with my coffee. I listen to my mother's clock tick in the hallway, and I'm grateful. Grateful I listened to a child's whispered warning. Grateful I had the courage to investigate, to plan, to fight. Grateful I had allies who helped me protect myself. Grateful I survived to tell this story. So if you're reading this and wondering if I was too harsh, if I should have forgiven, if family deserves infinite chances, let me be clear. No, some betrayals are unforgivable. Some wounds don't heal. Some people don't deserve your mercy. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from the people trying to destroy you, especially if they're family. I'm Auntie Jasmine. I survived. I fought back. I won. And I'm at peace. Finally, blessedly at peace.